What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Early Edge NFL Kickoff Show, brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. I'm Brinson. We got a 5-wide. Sia Nejad, Alex Selznick, Danny Brasco, and Mackenzie Brooks. All I tried to do it in a circle, and it actually worked out well. We've got a killer Sunday night game. There's still a little bit of action going on in the NFL right now. If the Seahawks don't hose me in Survivor and can manage to hold on, I think that's the only game that's kind of close. But regardless, insanely great game on Sunday night between the Rams and the Lions. Anybody who's ever listened to me talk for more than 3 minutes knows that I like revenge games, and this is a quadruple cross-culture revenge game between Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. Double, triple revenge for the playoffs last year. How's everybody doing? How's everybody first week? I know that's like an open-ended question that will result in like a brief pregnant pause. So somebody dive in and say, "I'm doing great. Football is fun."
Yeah, I'm doing great. Football is fun. I am fired up, guys. Could not be more excited to be here with you guys right now. Awesome first week of football, accentuated by this tremendous, explosive, dynamic matchup, as you mentioned, Brinson. Can't wait to see. I remember this time last year, you were championing Matt Stafford for MVP. And,
he got 4 votes. He got 4 votes last year.
I thought it was ludicrous at the time, but I totally ate crow. He definitely played a great season, and I can't wait to see these two offenses battle tonight.
I'm feeling pretty good. I had a 3-leg plus 600 college football parlay hit on that show, and then today I had a 3-leg NFL prop on SportsLine, Instagram, and TikTok parlay just hit with the Seahawks money line, and Seahawks for my survivor pick with the CBS analyst crew, where 99% of the people took the Bengals, so I might be one of like 4 people left.
I also want to point out Mackenzie touting Isaiah Likely on our last primetime stream at length, and we saw the big spike game from Likely. So well done, Kens.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but you were actually on that show. When Ken's called you, we were live on air. So thankfully you didn't like drop an F-bomb. Like F you take like Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, well, I wasn't 100% sure. I did go back and watch it because I wanted to see if I was and if the sound came through okay. I was so glad I touted Isaiah Likely with Mackenzie Brooks, of course, because he had an incredible game. And honestly, him not being the first touchdown scorer after looking at the game was a bit of a surprise. Speaking of Matthew Stafford, I have a play on Matthew Stafford. I have a lean on Matthew Stafford that I also like to give out. I just cashed my Bo Nix completions prop over on SportsLine, over 19.5 completions. The lean I have is a pass attempt prop, which I'll give out later in the show. And you mentioned revenge game. Listen, the Lions knocked out the Rams in the playoffs, but don't forget, this is a revenge against the refs, too. There was pass interference on that last call for the Rams on Puka Nacua. It wasn't called. If it was called, the Rams probably advanced in that game. I know I'm kind of rewriting history here, but that was a game that probably should have gone the other way if the refs decided to take a flag out of their pocket.
By the way, I should note that I am wearing a hat, like a baseball cap backwards, out of respect for future Hall of Famer Matthew Stafford, who shoves it in Colin Cowherd's face whenever he gets a chance and rocks that backward. Also, this is a problem right now. So let's talk about the Rams first. So we sort of been doing this the last couple of shows, but the Rams last year, I was really high on the Rams last year and thought they would go over the win total. They did easily. I think it's a bit underrated in terms of what the Rams can do both this season, both from a win total perspective and from winning the division. Now, betting on that a little more difficult right now. Niners haven't played, Cardinals lost, Seahawks last I checked were up 6 with a minute 40. Oh, Gino's taking knees. All right, so we're good. So Seahawks have won, looked a little sloppy out of there. I think with all the injuries and the attrition for the 49ers that we've seen so far this offseason, the Rams are very much live to win the division. Any thoughts, Danny, on the over-under for the Rams win total and or their did it close it? Is it? I mean, I guess you can still bet it. I think it was it 8.5? 8.5, like heavily juiced to the over because we just don't move these.
Yeah, right. Heavily juiced to the over, and then the playable line ended up being 9.5 on most books where it moved. But I actually played it a little bit differently. One of my heavier futures of the entire year, it's actually the biggest future I have, is the Rams to make the playoffs at plus 100. And I believe that it could come, at a tough start against these Lions that might, set the dome on fire tonight. But I think they have all the potential to keep growing and have one of the best elite offenses in the league. Tonight, I will note that Rob Havenstein is out. He's going to be a key piece alongside Jonah Jackson, who they added on the offensive line. That's going to be a key piece there. So I'm really excited to see how they form together on the defensive side of the ball. Aaron Donald is gone, but Jared Verse and Braden Fisk enter from the draft, teammates from Florida State. That could be a dynamic duo. And add Kobe Turner and Byron Young, who are already emerging in their second year. How will that defensive line fare with the departure of Aaron Donald? So I'm high on the Rams. I think they can improve. Tre'Davious White in the secondary there can really shore things up. Cameron Curl, some veterans. He's got to stay healthy, shore up that defensive DVOA, kind of EPA per play, and they'll be in it. That offense can beat anybody.
Kens, you were probably not in college at the same time as Matthew Stafford at Georgia, right? But
definitely not.
I mean, maybe born when Matthew Stafford was playing college football at Georgia. It was like the early mid-2000s. That's actually not that far off. Jesus,
yeah, I'd be
terrifying.
Probably in elementary school.
That's fantastic. I covered the 2009 draft. That's great. Any thoughts on Stafford? In particular, or just the Rams in general, season-long stuff as we sort of kick off the next to last. We only got 4 teams left where you could bet on their futures or their win totals.
Fair. To be honest, not too much to say about the Rams. If we had any type of model value on it, I probably would have known about it by now. Just definitely not one of those teams we've been harping on, which probably means we've been in line with the odds makers. One play I do like with them, though, is Puka Nacua just at a long shot, 22-1 to lead the league in receiving yards. Again, as a rookie, he had almost a 1,500-yard season, and I'm not so concerned with the Cooper Kupp situation. I find it hard to believe he will be healthy for an entire season, but even if he is, it's not like we saw, a complete cutout of targets for Puka, and the depth outside of the two of them just isn't really there. So he accounted for like 36% of their receiving yards last year, and I think that's going to go up again. So as a long shot, I think 22-1 is worth a sprinkle.
I dig it. See a prop. Any thoughts from you guys on the Rams as it relates to the season? I would also note too that I think losing Aaron Donald's huge. Obviously, he's probably the greatest defensive player I've ever seen. In my lifetime. But they really improved the offense, and I think it's going to show up over the course of the season.
Yeah, I'll step in real quick. I mean, I think this really comes down to them being healthy. I like the play that Danny Brasco made on the Rams making the playoffs, because when you look at the state of the NFC past the top 4 teams, which I think is still Green Bay, we'll see about that, but obviously Philly, Detroit, and the San Francisco 49ers, I kind of think it's anybody's game for the next 3 spots. Now, the NFC South winner, that they get one of those spots too, but I think the Rams probably end up making the playoffs because some of these fringe teams, even the Seahawks or even Washington, they didn't really look great week 1, and I think the Rams still hold a place ahead of them. So I do think it comes down to health, though. Stafford is getting up there in age, and he's had a history of injuries. Aaron Williams has had a history of lower leg injuries. Cooper Kupp has had a history of injuries. Puka Nacua in the preseason did get injured. So, this offense is great, but they got to have most of those parts moving for 17 games of the season. And I think that's a little bit more delicate for them than it is some of the other teams in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Rob.
No, I agree. I concur.
Yeah.
I'll touch on Detroit.
Well, I'll ask you about the Lions instead then, because the Lions are – I think that if you took the Lions and the 49ers and you took all their players and you swap cities and swap uniforms and completely flip the narrative, that whatever the fake 49ers I'm creating, the Lions would basically they would be the favorite to win the NFC, and they are up there anyway. This roster, man, is really, really good. It has been good for a while. When Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell came in, and shout out with Chris Spielman, brother of our colleague Rick Spielman, who works in the front office, they said we're going to be a hand of the ground, blue collar Detroit style team. We're going to build from the inside out. Best offensive line in football, in my opinion. They also have an incredible defensive line now. Aleem McNeil, my boy from State. They've got Aiden Hutchinson, of course. They have beefed it up. They improved the secondary in the offseason. And I think we're going to see a big step forward from Jameson Williams this year. Amon-Ra St. Brown hasn't completely tapped out his potential. And Sam Laporta freaking rookie with a fantastic season. Jared Goff, they have one game outside prop until week 16. It's at Green Bay in October, and then they play like in Chicago. They're in a dome or inside the entire year. This bodes really, really well for Jared Goff and the Lions this season, I think. Thoughts on them as win total, futures, etc.
Incredibly bullish on the Detroit Lions. I think they're the best team in the NFC, potentially the best roster in the NFL. I think they're going to finish with the most wins in the NFC as well. I believe Jared Goff is a viable MVP candidate. Just looking at this roster top to bottom, I just think it's so well balanced. They retained Ben Johnson in the offseason. I like the defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, as well. You mentioned the offensive line, PFF's #1 rated offensive line, absolutely elite unit. We look at the backfield tandem as well. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, the best 1-2 thunder and lightning punch in the NFL. I agree that the addition of Jameson Williams being a full-time player in the offense, kind of adding that element of speed, being able to take the lid off the defense. It might not show up on the stat sheet every week, but his presence alone, I feel, will add an extra dimension to this already explosive offense that's going to be playing on a fast track in optimal conditions. As you mentioned, 15 of the first 16 weeks. So just everything seems to be trending in the right direction. I think it's maybe the best tight end wide receiver combination in Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Defensively, love all the additions they made to the defensive line, beefing that up, adding Terrion Arnold as well. Branch looks like a potential star in the secondary. So I just love this Detroit roster top to bottom. I think they're going to score a ton of points. I think they're going to be ultra efficient. I think they're going to run the ball extremely well. The play action is just going to be a thing of beauty for them. So I'm all in on this Lions team. I think they have the upside to win 14 to 15 games. I think 12 games might be their floor personally if they stay relatively healthy at key positions. But just love this roster top to bottom.
Anybody else thoughts on the Lions? I mean, it's hard not to like the Lions, man. I mean, they're going to be explosive. Let's dive into this. By the way, there's a bunch of like cheerleading in the chat. I like it. Like we gotta let's go Sia. Let's go Sia.
I like
Ken's a shout out. There you go.
Girl power. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go with sunglasses emoji, no less. If anybody has any questions about specific players, specific props, specific bets you should make, put them in the chat. We will make sure and answer them. Yeah, we got time to kill before this game.
Speaking of which, I should mention DJ Reader addition to the defensive line that Proppy didn't mention. Actually, he's not going to be playing in this game. So Havenstein out on the offensive line for the Rams, DJ Reader not in this game for the Lions. But what a tremendous addition to, you want to question something about the Lions and poke a hole in them. It's on the defensive side of the ball, right? They were porous at times. Like they just had to outscore you in shootouts. Adding DJ Reader, what a run stuffer he is. That's a massive difference maker. He has Aaron Donald type of game-changing potential from the defensive tackle position. So I'm really interested to see how he fares on that defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, for sure. They got rotations and rotations. All right, let's get into the game itself. I was like touting the Rams on a Thursday show on CBS Sports Network, 2 to 3 p.m. every week. You can watch that, and was like, the Rams are going to win. Everybody else in the panel is like taking the Lions, and they're much sharper than me, so not great. And sure enough, it is steamed up to Lions -5 from 3.5. If you waited to bet the Rams, you were in much better shape. Kins, let's get a fancy graphic from the model that shows us. This one has like, that's like Star Wars-y kind of.
Right. I know. I'm getting my own brand now with the whole data tech situation going on. It makes me look a lot smarter than I am. But anyway, you're looking at some value here on the Lions to cover. We give them a 57% chance to cover that 4.5 point spread. We're basically right in line with odds makers on this total here. And sometimes that's good to know, which keeps us honest and makes me feel better that we're doing a good job of trying to replicate Vegas here. So I like when we don't have value as well. But as far as the game, we like the Lions here. It really comes down to home and away splits. You look at the Lions, who are +8 point differential at home last season, and the Rams are just really breaking even here. So I do have some qualms with Detroit's defense on the road, but as far as home, I still feel pretty good about them here. And I think the play is the Rams and the points.
Worth noting, and like Kins, I don't think you did the graphic yourself, right? I mean, I don't want to. Well, I don't know, but it said Rams -4.5. It meant to say Lions Detroit -4.5. I didn't want to like crap on the graphic, and then you were the one who did it, and then it's awkward.
No, I didn't. Yeah, my bad. Well, if you're looking at a projected score, that's what you should have been going with there.
right. I mean, anybody watching this knows like what we were going for there. Sia, I'm curious your thoughts on side or total with this game.
Now that it's crept up to 5, I mean, this was a stay away for me at 4 and 4.5. And I really have questions about the Rams defense and their ability to stop really anything Detroit does in optimal conditions today. With that said, I think 5 is a little too much. I mean, this has backdoor cover written all over it, and I do think this offense is going to be pretty dynamic. The lack of DJ Reader is a pretty big deal, obviously. So I think the Rams are going to be able to move the ball. I think this has a back and forth component to it, but even if we see a double-digit lead from the Lions, I would expect, and it's not an official play, but I would expect the Rams to backdoor cover in this one.
Is it true that we have world famous hip hop artist in the chat? Is that what's going on?
Thorb is the guy who does the NFL recaps. He's a good friend of mine. He's been on Sia Nejad Sports. I've had a chance to interview him. He does the NFL recaps, but he also does a ton of hip hop, including a song he just did for the New York Knicks, which some of those players were listening to. And he's got video of that. This guy is like completely legit, and he's in the chat. That's good on us.
Yeah, I gotta jump in and double vouch because Sia put me onto this guy, and I'm a huge hip hop fan. A lot of the time when you do like sports gimmicky kind of raps, it can be like kind of then the Giants got the ball. It could be a little kind of corny. He is dope. Like he's so creative. His rhyme schemes are fantastic. Check him out. Thorb is. I gotta back Sia on that one. He's awesome.
Mm-hmm. I mean, 100%. I had to Google TikTok when Mackenzie said TikTok. So, like, I'm not going to pretend like I know who Thorb is. But shout out to Thorb, like, for being in the chat. Appreciate it. And I will check out Thorb.
You guys, hey, Brinson, really quick, you mind if we got some rapid fire questions in the chat. I was just going to go through the sports.
Fire away. Yeah, let's do it.
See what we got going on. As far as golf here, over 272.5 is the number. We have him for 278. So nothing crazy value. I wouldn't pay a large price for it, but I do think he'll have a lot more time in the pocket than he would otherwise, as key defensive players have left the Rams that don't need to be named here. Obviously, we know who that is. And then Gibbs, over 11.5 rush attempts. We have him for 11.7, and it's mostly because we actually have him in this receiving game a little bit more than most people would assume, and I'll get into that a little later. So maybe I go with his rushing receiving yards combo, probably is where we'd have the most value. But as far as rushing attempts, we have him and Montgomery pretty much split 12 and 12 there.
Nice. Danny, side or total spot on this game?
I'm much more interested in attacking props, and we'll talk about those later. But if you make me lean aside, I think I agree with sort of Sia's sentiment, Mackenzie's sentiment on the Rams with the points chance to backdoor cover. The 5 is a lot now at this point. And I know a lot of people are going to be on the Lions. I'm just sort of getting the heebie-jeebies when 96% of the betting handle is on the Lions money line. And every single logo on every show lights up with the blue line. You know, I have to be the contrarian at that point. I don't think I'm going to go to the window with it. But 5 is a lot of points for what I expect to be a barn burner and a shootout. You know, like we mentioned, Rob Havenstein out, DJ Reader out. I see that as almost an equal trade. And if there's issues on the defensive or offensive lines, that could create scoring opportunities, maybe shortened fields. I mean, I see this one as, you know, the total is all the way up to 54. So it just can't get high enough, 54.5 on some books. If you're an underbetter, you're terrified right now, which I didn't touch that. So I'm expecting points, and I want to get some if it's going to be a back and forth affair.
I think the one concern for the total would be, and I'm with you, like I'm never taking an under in a Rams Lions game. That's no fun. On a Sunday night, please. That's no fun. I'll donkey it up here. I don't give a crap. But I think that you have to be a little concerned. Sean McVay is not scared to kick a field goal, and conversely, Dan Campbell is not scared to go for it on 4th down, but those 4th downs create so much variance in terms of field position and scoring, because if he gets them, you know, on his own side of the field, you know, it extends drives. Maybe you don't see as much scoring as quickly. If he doesn't get them, you know, on the Rams side of the field, all of a sudden you lose the points there. And so I do think it's tough. Like if we see the Lions go 3 for 3 on 4th downs, then you're probably going to see a ton of points. And if the Rams are down to the Lions and the Lions score early, you will see Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay is going to crank up the pass rate substantially. If the Rams have a lead, you're going to see Sean McVay crank up the run rate substantially. We'll get a ton of Kyron Williams, a ton of Blake Corum, and not as many points. So I think there is some live betting opportunity here, depending on how the early portion of the game goes. If you want to jump in on that prop, do you have a pick on the side of the total?
Nothing I'm leaning strongly towards. I would agree regarding the total, though. I think both of these teams will run the football a lot more than I think people realize, especially with the addition of Blake Corum to this Los Angeles backfield. And then we look at Detroit. They like to run the football as much as any team in the league. So I could see that potentially working against the total here. Very high total at 54 points.
I would assume everyone knows that I am taking the Rams +5. I'm wearing a backwards hat. So, yeah, I mean, what else can you do? Let's get to the player props.
That's what this team really specializes in. I'm looking at you three over here, and I'm like, this is a prop happy crew. This is a big prop crew.
Legalized betting, by the way, is, I mean, like I like betting player props anyway. Legalized betting with player props is
crazy.
And I mean, I've got a anytime touchdown parlay that's like over the course of like 3 slates. It's like now I just need Kyron Williams to cash. So hopefully that will happen. Danny, any thoughts? You mentioned earlier you thought you had a lean on some props. Anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at Sam Laporta. I'm going to bet his over receiving yards at 53.5 here. I think he's going to be featured early and often in this game. You know, the addition of Jameson Williams is solid for the wide receiver corps, but they're still fairly thin after Amon-Ra St. Brown. They lost Josh Reynolds to the Broncos. Not that he was a world beater by any means, but beyond Amon-Ra and Jameson, it's really all they can rely on in the wide receiver room. So I think really Laporta is going to emerge as that wide receiver too. He's getting a ton of targets, towards the end of the season last year, 9 receptions and 50 plus yards in over 10 games last year. I really think that he's going to be looking for revenge in this game as well. He was limited in that postseason battle. He was still able to haul in a touchdown, but only 3 catches for 14 yards coming off the hyperextended knee. He can now get back to his volume ways. And I think you see those speed guys like Amon-Ra and Jameson beat you on the outside. Sam Laporta up the seams all day for a familiar, reliable target, first down, check down guy. Laporta should rack up receptions and yards tonight. So I like the yards prop on him.
On the other side of the ball, at one point in time in 2022, I guess, Cooper Kupp would come in over under like 110.5, and you would feel petrified to take the under because he was just such a beast. Get a little value here, prop, in terms of Cooper Kupp's numbers, mostly because people think he's the number 2 there now.
Yeah, I am all in on Cooper Kupp this season, especially early on in the season when he's healthy. Bit of a role reversal if we look at the situation heading into this offseason with him and Puka Nacua. If we look at last year, Cooper was the one that was that was injured during the offseason, really kind of allowing Puka to emerge as Stafford's number 1 option in the passing game. You mentioned at the top of the show, Puka was hurt this offseason, and the reviews regarding Cooper Kupp this offseason have just been absolutely glowing. First man in, last man to leave. At training camp, in the team facilities every day, just working extremely hard, looks fully healthy, has that short area burst back. I think he had a little bit of trouble getting back into the flow of things when he's such a technician and precise route runner last season. So I think he's going to reemerge basically as that number 1 target. So tremendous discount here, considering these two, when they play together, average over their career over 80 receiving yards per game. Kupp when Stafford's throwing to him. I also think this is a very advantageous matchup as well. If we look at the Detroit defense, they're still vulnerable through the air. So this is a significant discount at 67.5 yards. They have an extremely condensed target distribution as well. Puka can still be heavily involved, and Cooper can still eat here. So I absolutely love this number. I think this is heavily discounted. I think the true line should be in the mid to high 70s. My model has a significant edge on this prop. So love Cooper Kupp both season long, but particularly early when he's healthy. I think he's going to be clicking on the field with Matt Stafford. Love this matchup for him as well. So all in. This is a multi-unit play for me.
Ooh, well then. All right. Sia, you mentioned Stafford off the top. Just talked about him there as a guy who's going to be feeding Cooper Kupp the ball. You like a Matthew Stafford prop, right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think he's going to be feeding Cooper Kupp the ball, hopefully for a touchdown, because that's where my prop lays. It's one over 1.5 touchdowns for Matt Stafford. I believe the best number was at BetMGM. I put it on SportsLine a few hours ago. It's minus 145, so it is juicy. But I just don't think the path to points, and there will be points on both sides. I don't think the path to points is through the running game. Even without DJ Reader, this was still a very good rush defense last year, and I think we're going to see the run game, or I should say the rush defense, pretty solid on the Detroit side. It's going to force Stafford in probably a negative game script for much of the game, if not a neutral game script, to pass the ball. And I think, they're in 11 personnel a lot. It's not just going to be Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. Demarcus Robinson's going to get involved. Kyron Williams is going to get involved. Even Colby Parkinson is going to get involved. My lean was to the over in his passing yards and to the over in his passing attempts as opposed to passing completions. The reason for the passing attempts is because I thought he would be relatively inefficient with this Detroit defense being pretty good, particularly with the pass rush, getting to him early, forcing some errant throws. So the big lean for me would be over 34.5 or 35.5 pass attempts, but the official play is over 1.5 touchdown passes.
I dig it. I think too, the Lions went out and got Carlton Davis in the offseason. They drafted cornerbacks as well. Terry Arnold, the first round pick. So I think they'll be better on the secondary, but it may take a little bit of time. And as we point out, even without DJ Reader, you still have Davenport, Aleem McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, like a lot of guys up front. And those are good guys who can get after the quarterback, but also, sort of run stuffing defensive linemen. Detroit was a pass funnel last year, and we could see more of that. I've got Cooper Kupp over 5.5 receptions. It's minus 145. It's a little juicy. That number's silly. Like, he gets 10 balls in the first half. It wouldn't be that crazy if that game really gets going. And I think Stafford, I think Stafford wants a little narrative street where he feeds him to show everybody that Cooper Kupp is in fact back. I also have a Kyron Williams anytime touchdown minus 115, just as I shouldn't have given this out because I just wanted to hit, so I get that parlay. And then a fun little bonus prop for the folks out there. Jameson Williams, first guy to hit 40 plus receiving yards, is 11-1. And the theory here is the Lions get the ball early. They run a little bit like Dan Campbell's been hyping this guy up all offseason. It's a one-shot play. It's not like he's going to get fed. If Amon-Ra St. Brown catches a few passes, it's toast. But if you get one deep shot to J-Mo, all of a sudden you get cash out, nice little 11-1. What does the model have, Kens, in terms of props this evening?
Yeah, not a terrible amount of value across the prop board. One that we do actually like, and I hope this doesn't mean that only one of us win here, but we do like Puka Nacua to go over his receiving yards. We have him for the 80 yards. We have Kupp for around 73. And I just like looking at the games they played last year. It doesn't scare me. I like the fact that there's two threats downfield now, which makes it harder for defenses to just be all over one or the other. And I also like the narrative that the Rams are playing from behind and we'll see the ball in the air a lot. But if you just look at his numbers from last, or you look at the betting market, sometimes I like to use the odds makers to try to figure this out. Their line's at 6.5 for his receptions. Ours is at 5.5, and we still like the over on yards, which makes me confident that we actually like the yards. And if he's going to get 6 receptions, like the odds makers are implying in the glass half empty situation, then he averages 14.2 yards per reception. Math tells me we should certainly get over this number. So I feel confident. I think him and Kupp can both have a great game, but I think I'm going to stick to the Puka narrative here for this one.
Yeah, I think it's easily doable where both guys get over their respective receiving yard prop numbers. By the way, this is happening to me currently, and it's just absolute hell. But do you ever accidentally leave? Like, I left one of my living room TVs on, and it cut away, so it's just playing this like 10-second loop of loud NFL music over and over again, and it's all I can hear right now in my head. So if I go like completely insane out of nowhere, that's why. Let's stick with what the models got, Kens, and tell us what anytime touchdown props are out there. These things have been smashing. I know
they have been smashing.
We got hosed, by the way, on Friday with that freaking 12 men on the field penalty with Jaden Reed. We should have had that first touchdown score.
Yeah, that was criminal. Side note, actually, I'll tell the story when we get back on screen after this. But first, let's go with anytime touchdown props here. We're going to go with St. Brown here. It's still around even money on BetMGM, but we would probably set that line around minus 130 just for the simple reasons of Aaron Donald, not being there, a lot less pressure on Goff, who accounts for 30% of the teams receiving touchdowns. So it's really just a play on the numbers there. Then for Gibbs, we have a ton of value on him because not only does he get 42% of the team's rushing touchdowns, but he gets nearly 15% of the team's receptions. And I know he only had one receiving touchdown last year, but as a rookie, but I do think that number could start to go up. And I think this is a good buy low spot on his anytime touchdown prop. And then as far as Cooper Kupp goes, all the same reasons you guys have mentioned. I mean, even when he was playing and injured, he's averaging over half a touchdown a game in his last 2 seasons. So again, that's really just a play on the numbers here. I think it's a good buy low spot for him as well. So those are the 3 we have some value on. I know a lot of people in the chat were asking about them. I do like Gibbs over Montgomery again for that reception part of it. And the thing I was going to say is I forgot to mention this earlier, but this summer I was at a bar and some guy
no way.
Yeah, crazy. I know. Some guy was like, I've been following like your picks, and long story short, put me in a group chat with like 25 of his friends called Touchdown Scores. And they're like every week, they're like looking for anytime touchdown props. And I have no idea who anyone is. And I just keep feeding them winner after winner. And I'm like, it's so funny. I'm like, guys, Rashid Shaheed. It's this Rashid Shaheed Sunday. Bang, first drive. I'm like,
that's incredible.
Nice.
Do you have any of the numbers saved? You have like one number saved in your phone, or like just like?
No, I didn't even save the number of the guy. I'm like, I don't even know.
Just send them your Venmo because they owe you at this point.
Literally, I think it's actually 25. It's called Touchdown Scores. I have not a single number saved, and they send me crazy parlays.
I mean, Shaheed was a great call. He was the first Sunday touchdown scorer of the week. It felt like it was
I got 2 hyperfixations for props, one being Rashid Shaheed and one being Dalton Kincaid. Like those 2, I'm always going to be betting on if it makes sense. Rashid Shaheed is just the most underrated guy. And the Saints receiving core. You know, I can go on about the Saints forever.
I'm from North Carolina, so I should have a bigger Southern accent, but my mother, who's from Florida, was scared I would sound like a redneck. So she wouldn't let me say oil. She wouldn't let me say oil or iron. I had to say oil and iron. So that's that for those that ask.
I'm crushed I didn't get Shaheed either. Someone offered, I saw it after it was already done, but someone offered me a 3rd rounder in a dynasty fantasy league for Shaheed, and I need receivers. I didn't see it, and now I'm kicking myself. Too late. Price went up.
Speaking of dynasty leagues, I know Proppy has a dynasty league that he so graciously invited me and Eric Casilius to be a part of. If Harry, our producer, could throw up the album cover of me and EK's team. I don't know if everyone's seen this. Me and EK's team is dominating. And we have Rashid Shaheed on our bench because I made sure we got him on our team. And I was like, do I play him? Do I not? I ended up not playing him, upset about it. But we still have an 81% chance right now to beat RJ. So feeling pretty good about the good, the bad, and the money. We're looking like a victory for week 1 over here.
That's fantastic. What an abuse of CBS resources to have somebody make that graphic for you. Clear cut HR violence. No, I'm kidding. BetMGM has all the action for every sports fan. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get a first bet offer up to $1,500. If your first bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets with bonus code EDGE1500. That's EDGE, EDGE, 1500. Man, I love Jamie Foxx. About a random Jamie Foxx story, but like many moons ago when I had my maybe first and we'll see bachelor party in Las Vegas, and it's who knows. And we were like, it was the De La Hoya Floyd Mayweather fight. And we're at like this random, it's like Emeril Lagasse's. There's like a sports book. We're just having we're watching NBA playoffs and betting on that, and like during the day. And Jimmy Fox came in with a freaking duffel bag of cash and laid it down there. And like one of my friends was up at the counter and saw him. He's like, "Who you taking?" And he looks at me, and goes, "Always bet on black," and walks away to like take Floyd, which is just an incredible scene. Usually the story lands better. Whatever. Let's get to the Propstarz Goose parlay. Proppy, what you got for us?
Shout out to the great and powerful Goose, who is out of the lab right now. We don't know where Goose is, but he was cooking.
Goose on the loose.
Goose is on the loose. He was cooking in the lab all day. We like this parlay quite a bit. Plus 390 odds. First and foremost, we're going with 2 alt totals for Matt Stafford and Jared Goff, both to throw for over 225 yards. Then we've got Jahmyr Gibbs to combine for at least 50 rushing and receiving yards. We've got Danny's pick, Sam Laporta, to go for 40 receiving yards. And then last but not least, the foundational piece of Goose's parlay is a Cooper Kupp anytime touchdown, which I absolutely love. Put it all together in one big alt parlay stew, and you get plus 390 for the win. We're going to smash this one.
Danny, I feel like we're playing like Brady Bunch right now. We're
Yeah, like Square, Hollywood Squares.
I'm trying to look outside the. Yeah, I was trying to hide behind it so I could add these to my. You could also. So we have Kupp. Kupp was one of the models anytime touchdown guys, but you could throw Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs onto Proppy's parlay there, and you could get some serious numbers. The model helped one of my friends cash a big one on Thursday. Let's get to. By the way, any specific, just to throw some up, thoughts on Jahmyr Gibbs rushing, receiving 80.5? You mentioned that. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Mackenzie.
I did some quick math there on our numbers, and we're basically right at 80. I was thinking we'd have some value there, but I'm not against it. I'm not here to tell you not to take it. Looks like Proppy might have a stronger opinion.
With Jahmyr Gibbs, again, as dynamic as any running back in football, I do have a little bit of concerns with his early season usage. I think there's this notion that Montgomery is going to take a back seat, which I don't think will be the case. I think we're going to see a really balanced touches distribution. So Montgomery is still going to be heavily involved in the backfield. I do think we'll see very strong efficiency from Jahmyr Gibbs, but I think there are some people hoping for a higher floor than he may have, at least initially in the season. I don't think you want to just all of a sudden saddle Jahmyr Gibbs with 18 to 20 touches right out the gate week one. So I lean over. I would certainly not play his unders, but I'm a little apprehensive just for that fact.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
One thing to look for, and this is pretty unlikely, but I just kind of want to point out how betting live props may work in a Jahmyr Gibbs situation. If somehow the Rams find themselves up, 10 points or double digits early in this game, and Gibbs has yet to have a lot of looks, or I should say a lot of yards, you can look for a live prop in terms of his combo rushing and receiving line. It may, instead of 81 or 82.5, it may at that point drop because maybe 1/3, or I should say 3/4 of the first quarter is gone, or the entire first quarter is gone. It might drop to like 66.5 or something like that. And the distribution among the two is actually even in the red zone with rushing attempts and rushing attempts in general. But when it comes to actual receptions, Gibbs is going to have the advantage there. So if they find themselves down in an appreciable way, hitting Jahmyr Gibbs live props overs or receiving props overs is going to be the play.
Yeah, that's a great call. These two teams are very game script. I mean, everybody's game script dependent, but like the Panthers, for instance, like Panthers down 37-7, they're just going to sit there and flail around like a dying bird. I mean, whereas, the Rams or the Lions, they have good offenses. They're going to change in terms of their pass rate, what they do. And I think shout out to Coach Speak Index. If you don't follow at Coach Speak Index on Twitter, you should. They do great work. But like Dan Campbell is blunt and honest and straightforward with his personnel usage. He doesn't beat around the bush. And he said repeatedly that David Montgomery is going to be a workhorse. They love Jahmyr Gibbs, but I think there is some analytic stuff that goes into it in the same way with Devin Achane, where they're not going to, it's like, if, for instance, if Raheem, maybe this is a little different with Gibbs, but like if Mostert goes down, it's not going to be Achane's just a workhorse who gets 40 carries a game. They want Gibbs to be fresh. They want to get him in space. They want to use his skill set for where they drafted him. And so, like, yeah, if they're down and the Rams are up double digits, Gibbs is gonna be out there catching passes because Montgomery's not as great a pass catcher. I think he's the hammer when they have a lead. And if they're leading, don't bet Jahmyr Gibbs live props because David Montgomery's going to get most of the carries. Okay, love that parlay, by the way.
And we'll also speaking of all those game scripts, like if there is a game script that lends itself to a run heavy, look for maybe a number to climb under, say 49, 48 if you want to attack the over. 54.5, too rich for my blood. But you get below a lot of those key numbers. I mean, that's where totals are won and lost. So maybe if you see a 47 even on the board, then I might be pretty tempted to take an overshot.
I love it. All right. Do we have a first touchdown scorer on the board yet? Two shows in?
It's been a bunch of it's either under 10-1 has been mostly the situation we've hit, or just getting hosed from Jalen Reed. Not that I'm salty about it.
Dude, that was both teams have 12 men on the field. Just let it count. What are we doing? Like, it's like nobody has an advantage. I know somebody in the chat. By the way, if you're in the chat, you have a question, let us know. Also, smash the like button. What are you doing if you're not smashing the like button? Somebody, and I'm struggling to find it because there's so many comments, but somebody pointed out that the anytime touchdown prices are a little skinnier, like a little like lower than they used to be. That's true. And you know what? So are the first touchdown scorers. They have done a decent job, the books, of leaving some stuff out there where it's above 10-1 for reasonable names. But by and large, you used to see like second receivers at 20-1, and like tight end. You wouldn't see a tight end at like 11-1 unless they were just an elite guy. And so that's just part of it. As Sia, I know I shouted you out for your first round leader acumen the other day, but same sort of thing. And some of that's lived. There's just first round leaders are just the prices are just thinner, and so are anytime touchdown scores. But nevertheless, we will be betting a first touchdown scorer. Sia, any thoughts on a first touchdown scorer in this game?
Well, if that is what you're looking for, if that is what you're going to get, I'm going right back to a name I just mentioned a few minutes ago, Demarcus Robinson, the third receiver for the Los Angeles Rams, who's going to be on the field a ton because the personnel they run out is typically 11 personnel. That means, of course, you're going to have 3 receivers on the field. Demarcus Robinson is a veteran. And it's interesting, Will, what you said earlier about this secondary in particular with Terrion Arnold, with Ennis Rakestraw, with Carlton Davis added to the mix. Complete turnover there. That's likely going to be a good secondary, but not necessarily a good secondary in the first few weeks of the season. And I think Sean McVay is just the wrong coach for the Lions to be playing in terms of exploiting some of those new players and young players. And I think Demarcus Robinson is a very underappreciated veteran. He's 30-1. This is a guy that's going to be on the field when the Rams score, and he's 30-1. So listen, I could go ahead and I could look at like a Sam Laporta at like 9 or 10-1, even though 9-1 doesn't qualify. I think Sam Laporta might be a better play, but there's no doubt in my mind that the best value on this board for first touchdown is the 30-1 Demarcus Robinson.
I dig Demarcus Robinson. Prop, what you got for first touchdown scorer? Little diamond hands.
I was surprised to see Cooper Kupp was eligible here, I guess because Detroit is heavily favored to score first. You can find a pretty solid value for both Nacua and Kupp. I've been singing Cooper Kupp's praises all throughout this hour. I absolutely love him tonight. Extremely bullish on his short-term outlook in this game and while he remains healthy for this Rams offense. So I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp. You can find it around 12-1, 13-1 odds, depending on where you shop around for these, which I think is a very strong value considering his rapport with Matthew Stafford, his ability to score touchdowns, his usage in the red zone. Just pretty much every box is checked when we're talking about Cooper Kupp scoring a touchdown. So love the value he provides at 13 or 12-1 odds.
Cooper Kupp was actually going to be my pick when I looked at it. I was like, why is he double digits? That's weird. But
I
then
knew someone would take it.
I saw the light of my life, the shining beacon of underrated free agency. That is my guy, Colby Parkinson. I think he's going to smash this year. I'll let you take it away, Danny, though, because you also have Colby Parkinson at a juicy number for first touchdown scored.
Me and Brinson, diamond hands. Was that a GameStop short squeeze reference? Elite. Man, Colby Parkinson, the new TE1 in town, right? Tyler Higbee tears his ACL at the end of the last season. And who do they go out and pay $22 million for 3 years? Colby Parkinson, who was, a decent tight end on the Seattle Seahawks. He's got explosivity to his game. He plays with a fiery edge about him. And I like the guy, man. Show up and prove that you're worth that contract and worth that deal. I don't have too many, schematic angles for you here, but I think he gets himself involved in the offense. And hey, the spread is all the way up to 5.5, guys. I mean, if right, and it goes in that direction, the Lions run over them, maybe there's a Colby Parkinson garbage time touchdown involved, if they're down multiple scores. Get the new guys involved. So at 25-1, man, we're live here. Give me Colby all day. I'm with you, Brinson.
Yeah, and look, one of the things about this jump from Colby Parkinson from Seattle to the Rams, in Seattle, he had, for the exception of his rookie year, and this guy's a 6'7", 265, like stud out of Stanford, okay? He has Shane Waldron as his OC for almost his entire career. Shane Waldron is where the tight end production goes to die. watch Cole Kmet this year, or don't watch him because he's not going to do much. Like Gerald Everett's going to be stealing his stuff. So I think Colby Park. We've seen Tyler Higbee be a real focal point for Matthew Stafford. I think Colby Parkinson is going to be that. Kens, you got one on the other side of the ball with a speedy little feller for first touchdown.
Yeah, speedy little fella. We're going to go with Williams here. Something about a wide receiver, too, to score the first touchdown just sits right for me. And the last time we saw him, he had a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown in the NFC Championship. So I like that quote-unquote momentum going into this. Again, the Rams' pass defense just wasn't that great last season. Can only get so much better in week 1 of a new season. So I think it could be a good receiver prop here. 13-1. I like my odds there, and I like Detroit to score first.
Yeah, and look, here's the recap of all our first touchdown scorers. I got Colby along with Danny. Prop has Cooper Kupp. Ken says Jameson, and C has Demarcus Robinson. I gotta be honest, guys, that is like quintessential how you spray the board. Like I think having all 4 of those guys in your portfolio, if you want to call it a portfolio, like like slamming like bets on first round scores, we're calling it a portfolio. But I think those 4 guys are absolutely the best values on the board when you talk about people who are over 10-1. We haven't had much luck, but I think we get one this evening. Okay. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Jameer Gibbs, 24.
If Sia comes in here for the first primetime show and hits a gem, I might have to contemplate everything. So those are my last words.
I have an obscene amount of Demarcus Robinson best ball, so I'm here for it. Like,
I am the world record holder for gems in early edge, the pantheon of early edge gems. So, I mean, if there were somebody to do it on his first show in, it might be me.
Hey, I did it too on my first show in.
He must be stopped, Kens. He must be stopped.
No, let's get it. Just everybody.
I was a late addition to the for the primetime shows last season, but my ratio of gem to show was pretty wild. We got to say that, right, Sia?
It's true. Facts.
Just diamond hands across the board. All right. One more point, by the way. Demarcus Robinson, I agree. He's going to play. The Rams are going to play a ton of 3 wide receiver sets. If something happens to him for whatever reason, he is an older dude. Jordan Whittington looked freaking awesome in the preseason. And actually, if anything happens to any of the Rams wide receivers, they think Whittington can play outside too. So like if you're in a deeper league or obviously a dynasty league, and for some reason he's not owned, I would grab him as well. Just random parting words as we get out of here. All right. That'll do it for us. Good luck on your bets. Everybody cash. Tweet us the tickets at SportsLine. Or, here's a recap too, because I should do that. I have the Rams +5, Kyron Williams, anytime touchdown, Cooper Kupp over 5.5 receptions. Prop has Cooper Kupp over receiving yards, 67.5. Sia Matthew Stafford over 1.5 touchdown passes. And Danny's got Sam Laporta over 53.5 receiving yards. And of course, Ken's, as we do every one of these shows, since now I'm not putting you on the spot. What does the model have?
The model has Puka's yards here. We have him projected for 90. Line is at 73.5 right now. Love the value there. And I know the show loves Kupp too. I think there's a version of the story where they both hit, especially if they're playing from behind. So
let's just go out here and sweep the board and come back and drop lunkers on Monday night show. Of course, you can tune into Early Edge, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You're Monday. I don't know what time it is. I don't know what time anything is. Yeah.
How dare you, Will Brinson? Every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
We've got you covered for your daily slate and some future stuff too.
Yeah. Look, I have a 10-year-old and he wakes me up at like 6 o'clock in the morning and makes me take him to school. So like I have no concept of time, especially once football season starts.
Take him to school as a 10-year-old is a crazy thing to accuse him of.
Get yourself to school already, Robbie. I'm just kidding. Shout out to Robbie Brinson. Love him. For Sia, for Prop, for Danny, for Kens, I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you guys soon.